Gen AI only for assessment and sourcing, why not we also leverage it for improving the interview quality?
You had co-created a chatbot-based candidate relationship platform.
So we worked with a HR tech startup and we co-created this solution. So I was working as a functional architect for 10 weeks, where right from the whiteboard of how the bot would look like, what are the touch points in recruiting lifecycle, and I recommend people to use design principle, put the user in the center and build the solution around it. Because if you not do that, you would eventually end with hitting the roadblock later, right? And then you end up in doing some maintenance work which doesn't make sense.
So what was that initial spark that got you to TA?
An off-campus recruitment batch event. We were expecting some 1,000 candidates to show up, and we ended up in facing over 4,000 students.
Wow.
And that was my first experience of dealing with such a large crowd of candidates. We were rescued by cops.
Hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Momentum, a podcast by HirePro. Here we discuss the latest trends and innovations in tech-driven recruitment. I'm your host for today. My name is Mridul and I head product management at HirePro. As we shoot this episode, the college hiring season is in full swing across all parts of the nation. We all know how important early talent hiring is for the organizations. However, scaling early talent hiring has its own significant challenges due to high volume, intense competition, and manual or broken processes. And then there is this topic about how GenAI can transform recruitment. While the topic is vast, today we will dive into GenAI and early talent hiring. We'll talk about how GenAI is transforming high volume recruitment and scaling early talent hiring. With me in the studio, we have a dear friend and an accomplished people's person who currently heads talent acquisition at KPMG India. Welcome, Mohit Sharma. Great to have you on our podcast.
Thank you for having me here.
So, Mohit, you're quite a well-known person in the HR community. I'm sure our audiences would like to know a little bit more about you. Could you walk us through your journey of the last 2 decades in the world of talent acquisition?
Sure. So surely happy to do that, Mridul. Last 20 years I've spent in the talent acquisition space. Have had an opportunity to move into different directions within HR, but something or other always interested me towards talent acquisition as a subject. I worked with large IT services organizations including Tech Mahindra and Capgemini, moved in the engineering space with Bombardier, manufactured trains and aircrafts, delved into the banking GCC space with Barclays and Societe Generale. Last 3 years with KPMG, where I lead the talent action function. KPMG is a global known professional services firm. These 20 years I've worked in different roles, mostly mainstream, but I also played a role where I was leading recruitment service offering to various clients globally. Worked in different parts of India and global locations as well, including Delhi, Pune, Calcutta and Bangalore, and overseas I worked in the UK and Australia. But quite an enriching experience so far.
Yeah, really quite vast and deep. So you talked about that, talent acquisition always pulled you back, right? So what was that initial spark that got you to TA? What was the calling moment?
Interesting. If I recollect way back in 2003, I think a couple of moments. Let me talk about what comes to my mind right now. 2003 is where I was interning with Mahindra British Telecom, and me and my colleague along with our boss, we went to Bangalore to manage an off-campus recruitment batch event. We were expecting some 1,000 candidates to show up, and we ended up in facing over 4,000 students.
Wow.
And that was my first experience of dealing with such a large crowd of candidates. We were rescued by cops, and we ended up in paying some money to the venue partner, given there was some disturbance happened there. But that was a moment for me and I was contemplating, is this something which I really want to do? But maybe I was young to really found that as more thrilling, and I decided this is the space I want to continue with, right? The moment I remember, I was in Australia, and like I said before, My Australia role was multifold, and recruitment was a part of it, right? And then I called up my boss in India. I said, I'm not finding any action here. I really want to get back. And my boss was like, you are such in a comfort zone. Why do you get back, right? But I was really missing that action, that thrill of achieving numbers, and that made me come back. So a couple of moments always I remember, because that made me quite passionate about this subject.
That's fascinating. So, if you weren't in TA, where do you imagine you would have been, instead of TA?
Not many people know it. I've been very deep into interest into music and photography. I picked up a DSLR around 10 years back, and I clubbed my interest towards music and photography. I've been shooting a lot of gigs, concerts, and music festivals. I was also awarded the best music photographer in 2019 by the Indian Music Direct. So, had not been a talent acquisition professional, I would have been possibly moving around with gears and shooting festivals around the world.
Wow. So, in the world of media and arts.
Absolutely. The art, music, and sports always interest me.
Wow. So coming back to talent acquisition, so I've heard you speaking about ecube strategy in some of the other forums as well. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. So ecube stands for 3 E's: efficiency, experience, and engagement. It basically means deliver efficiency, drive engagement with talent, primarily passive talent, and enhance experience, right? That actually covers all the key elements for talent acquisitions aligned to any business objectives. And it's about adopting OKR framework, objective key results. So have the key results aligned to each of those objectives, have actions resulting into meeting those objectives. So that's about ecube strategy.
So you spoke about efficiency, engagement, and experience. So while the recruiters chase these objectives and try to deliver on those, what do you think are the biggest challenges that they face?
Yeah. So let me answer in 2 parts. Let's first talk about the recruitment challenges in the industry, and that's agnostic of the setup, scale, size of the organization, right? Essentially could be categorized into 3 C's: competition, compensation, and competency. These 3 remain to be the core 3 challenges for any recruitment setup. Now, coming to the recruiters' challenges, right? I think the topmost I could think of is really the hustle around striking balance between managing high-skill transactions, at the same time being relevant for stakeholders, added value to the business, adding to top line, and so on and so forth. I think that becomes one of the key challenging element for any recruiter into this time.
So coming to technology and talent acquisition, so Gen AI, it's not even a hype anymore. It's not even an emerging field anymore. It's right there in all our lives. So in the context of talent acquisition, so how do you see Gen AI helping, and especially in the areas of high volume hiring?
So let's acknowledge the fact that we have seen a faster adoption of generative AI, also known as Gen AI, in not just talent acquisition, our personal life as well, right? I mean, I'm sure you also must be using some Gen AI platform for your personal, day-to-day life as well, right?
More than one, actually.
More than one, right? I'm sure. So the impact actually is very evident, and if I remember a few years back when the AI surfaced, people used to talk about it, but the implementation was not as aggressive as what we are seeing today, especially with the Gen AI, right? And when it comes to talent acquisition, to my view, it actually it is impacting the entire life cycle, right from attracting talent or engaging with talent to the sourcing, screening, the entire selection process, to offer engagement, onboarding. Entire cycle has been impacted by Gen AI, right?
Right.
You spoke about the high volume as well, right? So there is, of course, going back to the ecube, right? If I can bring that element here, if you look at from an efficiency standpoint, especially in high volume hiring business, it is largely GenAI being getting used to the first part of the cycle, which is about resume screening, engaging with talent, getting assessment done quickly, and so on and so forth, right? Interview and assessment part overall also has seen a larger adoption of GenAI, especially in the high volume for a faster turnaround, accuracy in the selection, and so on and so forth, right? Think about it. I mean, we also not looking at Gen AI only for assessment and sourcing. Why not we also leverage it for improving the interview quality? So there are organizations who also have adopted Gen AI to improve, to keep and monitor the interview questions, the nature of questions, etc., and give recommendations back to interviewer about how he or she could improve on the interview quality. That has seen a larger utilization as well, right? There are bots which are coming into surface, which is AI powered, engaging with candidates, provide a better experience to candidates, just not limited to delivering efficiency.
So, talking about chatbot, I remember you had co-created a chatbot-based candidate relationship platform. Could you give some details on that and how, with the power of GenAI, you could make it even better today?
Sure. So this was 5-6 years back. GenAI was not there at that point of time, but the problem statement we were trying to address was limited interactions with candidates. We are not able to make an impact, high offerenic, and so on and so forth. And we were looking for a technology solution which could help us to not only enhance experience of candidates, and also thereby we get some insights to improve at our side as well, right? So we worked with a HR tech startup, and we co-created this solution. So I was working as a functional architect for 10 weeks, where right from the whiteboard of how the bot would look like, what are the touch points in recruiting lifecycle. So essentially the solution is the bot engages with candidate at multiple touch points, and in those touch points the bot pushes out some information which is relevant for candidate, at the same time gathers some information which could be relevant for our team to deep dive and understand what are the gaps we have and how we could improve it, right? I mean, it could be as simple as a bot engaging with Mohit saying, hey, Mohit, Mridul is a recruiter who spoke to you. Where do you rate Mridul about your experience with Mridul, right? I think that gave us insight about, what is the learning opportunity for Mridul to become a better recruiter, right? Or a candidate about, or Mohit could basically ask questions, say, I would like to know a little more about the organizations, and the bot actually engaging and give that information. Now, the Gen AI is, of course, advancing further, right? It's not about an FAQ-based thing. It is also about the Gen AI would understand candidate, understand the priorities of candidate, and accordingly give information with candidate to far more better engagement with candidates as well, right? And a far deep dive insights to the recruitment team to advance their strategies to enhance the overall experience of candidates.
Right.
So that was a bit of experience of the 10-12 week journey where we really came together and co-created it.
Wow. And yeah, with the power of GenAI, you can now make the whole experience very conversational.
Absolutely.
And that conversation doesn't need to be scripted anymore. It can be different for different candidates.
Absolutely.
Based on like what you said, GenAI would understand the candidate's profile and priorities.
And far more personalized, I would say.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Personalized, yes. So, Mohit, at the beginning of the conversation, we were talking about how college hiring is at its full swing right now. So, talking about college hiring, the entry-level hiring specifically, how can GenAI help there, and how can it improve the whole process for all parties?
So, let's deep dive into the college hiring space and look at how GenAI is or could impact, right? Like I said in the previous question as well, right from attracting talent, right? So you could have a Gen AI solution engage with students, right? Understand his or her aspiration and recommend jobs instead of throwing a job and person to apply. Get some basic information from candidate and application form is filled, right? To the screening, which means your mass applications coming in, a Gen AI solution helps to quickly screen applications in no time. To the interview assessment, where Gen AI can actually recommend questions to interview basis the information a solution would have captured at the start of the process. And also not only limit to assessing candidates, but also give recommendations and probe to interviewers on what additional an interviewer could go deeper into understanding about individuals' experience and strengths, right? Moving on to the engagement side, I think that's very key because in India context, if you look at it, when we make an offer and the person joins, there's always a gap of 6 to 9 months when people actually come on board, right?
Right.
How a Gen AI powered bot solution could engage with students, maybe front load some learning content to students to know about the organizations, and thereby you reduce your time to being more productive, right? I mean, instead of organizations spending a month, 2 months to train once they come and join, can some of this be front loaded through a Gen AI based solution, right? And engage with students, give some information about the organizations, give latest updates, and so on and so forth. So, like this, there are multiple touch points on which we could use Gen AI, right? I think the industry also has been moving from positioning as an employer of choice to more as contributing to the careers of students, right? And in that as well, GenAI can play a role where you see a solution right on your internet page, and student can just come in and say, you know what, I want to learn about Python, and the solution actually helps with some content which could help the student to go through it, right? Or it could be as simple as, you know, a free module which is accessible for students to prepare for campus recruitment, right? So, you know, technology could also have been helping organizations to move from how they position themselves in the student community.
Right. So, in effect, right from the first year of engineering, companies can start using Gen AI to offer candidates a right career building platform.
Absolutely.
Right. And by the time the company goes to the college to hire them, they are better prepared. So candidate is happy, the employer is happy.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, that's how the technology is able to and enabling organizations to enhance their brand recall value.
Right. Great. So, like finally now, we talked about what is the potential, what are the various ways in which Gen AI can help. From your own experience, what have been your learnings,
Sure.
something that others can benefit from in adopting Gen AI in an organization for talent acquisition? What have been your learnings so far?
Yeah. Although I firmly believe I'm still a learner, let me share some of my learnings so far, right? I think the very first important is organizations should be clear on what's the problem statement, what's the problem they're trying to solve. And let's accept the fact that not every solution requires a technology solution to solve it. I mean, some of this could be actually non-technology solutions as well, right? More clarity towards problem, able to help organizations to then work towards the design of it and look at the right technology solutions to it. It's not a rat race where everybody has to adopt it, right? So
Correct.
I think it's very important to spend more time to understand what is we are trying to solve, right? The design part, like I said, is very important, and that's where organizations should spend more time and efforts to be clear, because if you not spend time on the design, and I recommend people to use design principle, put the user in the center and build the solution around it, because if you not do that, you would eventually end with hitting the roadblock later, right? And then you end up in doing some maintenance work which doesn't make sense. The third element is efficiency is important, and many of the organizations today look at technology adoptions to deliver efficiency. We should look beyond that. We should really look at beyond and more focus towards experience, because if you focus more towards experience, that actually directly and indirectly also impact the efficiency as well, right? So build solutions which also enhance experience of hiring managers, candidates, recruiters, the users base completely, right? And thereby, how do you really look at adopting technology, and it could be Gen AI, to also contribute to the community and not just look at your organizational benefits out of it, right? So these are some of my learnings from the limited experience I have with technology intervention and talent acquisition.
So very interesting, I can actually relate to it, being in the product management function. That's exactly how we look at it, right? Define the problem right,
Absolutely.
Design the solution right before you get into execution. In a lot of places, technology is not the be-all, end-all of a problem statement as well. So yeah, I completely agree with you. Thank you so much, Mohit, for your time. Right, it was an amazing conversation. It's weird, like every time I meet with you, I talk to you, there's always something new I learn and that I walk back with. So really appreciate this conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
That's all for this episode of HirePro Momentum. Please remember to subscribe to our channel and tune in for more fearless hiring insights. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.